What would you do if you held in your hand the key that could ignite the economic development of your community? I'm holding in my hand such a key. It's this very special little grape seed. You probably can't see it from the back, but it's a very special grape seed. Let me tell you about this. People who know me know that I have an insatiable curiosity. Once I start learning about something, I want to know about something, I can't leave it alone, I can't quit. I just absolutely get all excited about learning more and more and more, as possibly as much as I can about these things. And also, people who know me know that I'm also very determined. More than once in my life, I've tried to push that rock up that hill. And a few times I succeed. When I succeed, it's because I've been thinking outside the box. When I moved here from Arizona a number of years ago, I looked at all these mountains, all these south-facing slopes in the mountain counties, and I thought, why aren't we growing grapes here? I had grown grapes in Minnesota, so I know what cold hardy means. Also grew grapes in the desert, where you're not supposed to be able to grow grapes. Won some wine awards with my wines that are made from those hard to grow grapes in the desert. But start thinking outside the box. And here we go, all these south-facing slopes. And it dawned on me, well, I know about growing grapes. I can start growing grapes here. It turns out that grapes like three things. They like water. A lot of them falling out of the sky here. They also like good soil, crappy soil, rocky soil. We have plenty of that with this hard pan red clay we have in most of the mountains here in the Katuah region. So we started looking at growing grapes. And what we discovered was that we had to have cold hardy grapes, because it's pretty cold in the mountains. And through our research, we discovered probably around 55 different types of grapes that would grow well here in the mountain counties. So we started planting a few. We put in some test plots, started growing some grapes, showing people what happened. I kept hearing these rumors. Every time we'd have a little symposium, a little conference, a little seminar, people come, well, you know, my granddad, he was out there, he had some muscadines growing out back. And I think, no, muscadines don't grow. Everybody told me it's impossible. You can't grow muscadines in the mountains. It's too cold. It's too high. Everything I read in the literature said that muscadines come from hot weather, high humidity, that type of hot climate. And they won't grow in the cold mountains. But this rumor persisted. Every time somebody told me they thought they had some muscadines growing out back at the barn along the fence, my wife and I go traipsing off up into the mountains, up every creek and holler we could find, looking for these invasive muscadines that are supposed to be growing in the mountains. And one day, this old fellow from over in Hot Springs approached and said, well, I know there's a patch of them growing over here. So we went out to check it out, and sure enough, they were there. Those were muscadines. I thought they'd been planted. So I asked him, did your dad plant these? Did somebody else plant these? How long has they been here? The guy who owned the property said, they were here for 150 years. My great-granddad had them there. So I was absolutely astounded. First of all, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I recognized the grapes, but when I tried to get identification positive, everybody was giving me, no, it can't be muscadines. They don't grow here. It's too cold. I had to take pictures, send them off to experts throughout the United States who knew about muscadines, and they all came back and said, Chuck, no problem. Those are muscadines. We have growing here in this region native, cold, hardy muscadines in the mountain counties. Now you have to think about this. First of all, in the world there's 15,000 different varieties of grapes. 15,000. Most people in this room probably can't name more than 5 or 10. Most people say they're red, pink, or white. And of those 15,000, there's roughly 300 different varieties of muscadines and scuppernongs being grown in the United States. North Carolina alone has about 28 varieties in the ground now, commercial vineyards. But nobody, up until we had discovered these native, cold, hardy muscadines, believed there was such a thing. That they had come here, been here for eons, carried by the birds, genetically kept selecting colder and colder as they moved harder and harder up into the mountains and higher, and until it was discovered. The people here who lived here for a long time knew they were here. They knew they'd been here for a long time, but they didn't recognize what they had. This is the rarest grape in all the world. It's ours. It grows right here. And when we made this discovery, we started working with it, trying to figure out how to propagate it. And I'm telling you, it is not easy to propagate these grapes. This is a real, real challenge. But we finally solved the problem, and we planted the very first little patch of them up on our patch of dirt back up in Madison County. 1 out of 15,000. And because we had to come up with a name for this grape, we decided that we would put a name on this grape that would be representative and honor the region. And so we call it the Katuah Native Cold Hardy Muscadine. That's a picture of them right there. The leaves on the left from one of my very first vines. And those are some of the grapes that we harvested in the wild. Ours in the grape vineyard are not working yet. Another 2 years before we get the first grapes. But this grape, this special seed I just dropped in my pocket earlier, this has the key to a massive development to help the economy of the mountain counties. We have a product here that's not a grape. If you're growing cattle and sheep, you have a ranch. If you're growing tobacco and beans and corns, you have a farm. If you're growing grapes, you have a vineyard. And it's not just a vineyard. One of the exciting things we found about this, nobody could answer this, nobody. What happens when these things start to flower? Do you have to have male and female plants like you do a lot of times? We didn't know if it was self-fertile or not. So 2 years ago, when our grapes had the very first flowers on them, I was walking the vineyard in the morning. I went running up the hill, excited as I could be. Where's my magnifying glass? Where's my magnifying glass? The grapes are in bloom. I have to go down and look. I have to see, are they self-fertile or not? And here's what I saw. At that moment, when I was standing there with my magnifying glass, I realized that this was a moment of learning, a moment of discovery that nobody else in the world knew at that point, that these Katuah native cold hardy muscadines were self-fertile. That means you didn't have to worry about planting rows of males with rows of females in order to cross-pollinate. What I want you to understand more than anything else, and the ideas we're sharing, is it is not just a grape. It's not just a grape. It's all of the things that you can make from the grape. Juice, wines, fruits, all types of smoothies. It's a new product they've invented last year. Fantastic thing, special types of grapes. Did you know that raisins right now, the black muscadine raisin, is a specialty crop in California because of the health benefits? It's absolutely phenomenal, the types of things you can get this. And not only these products, but others. Grapeseed oil, resveratrol. These red mountain muscadines have 40 times the amount of resveratrol of normal red grapes. And you've probably had your doctors recommend, especially if you get to be a little gray-haired, a little senior citizen like me, have 2 glasses of wine a day. Now, I try very hard to hold my end of that bargain up, you understand. But if you're going to be drinking a red wine, drink a healthy one. Have a red muscadine wine. It's fantastic. So when you start to think about economic development, think about the unique things that we have in the Katuah region. This is our grape. This is our raw material for developing the economic engine that would force all of the counties in the mountains to go forward. If you can, just visualize all the south-facing slopes in western North Carolina covered with grapevines, covered with Katuah muscadine vines, and all of the products and all the jobs that can come from that in the future. We saw this in the mountains in California last week. We saw this in reality in the high, steep slopes of northern Italy near the Swiss border last fall. You can help. This is the idea that we're sharing. Grow grapes and prosper. Have a great day.